In the following video, a Ring security camera in a seemingly quiet residential neighborhood captures a sequence of events that has left the homeowner, Adam Gibson, in a state of genuine distress. For weeks, Adam had been noticing peculiar movement on his property, fleeting shapes caught in his peripheral vision, and the sound of footsteps when no one else was outside. Initially, he attempted to brush these occurrences off as local wildlife or simple visual tricks, but the frequency began to form a pattern that made him feel as though he was being watched. His suspicions were finally validated when he reviewed his camera's archive. The footage focuses on Adam's driveway during the late hours of the night. Take a look. As you can see, a small, dark shape suddenly materializes on the left side of the frame and darts across toward the right. What makes this manifestation so baffling is its translucent quality. The texture of the pavement is clearly visible through the figure's form as it moves. It doesn't run with the heavy, rhythmic gait of a living person, but rather glides with a fluid, unnatural speed before vanishing into thin air just as it reaches the edge of the frame. Adam shared the footage in a paranormal research group on Facebook, admitting he is now scared because the activity has become so consistent. In paranormal theory, such sightings are often categorized as residual hauntings, echoes of the past that replay under specific conditions. However, the fluid speed has led some to speculate this could be a more sentient entity. Is Adam's yard a corridor for energy from another era, or is a spirit trying to communicate? I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. In the next video, a resident named Jorge Luis captures a sequence that blurs the line between a nightmare and a physical manifestation. Jorge explains that while he has experienced vivid dreams before, this night felt as if something were physically present in the room. He didn't wake up with a clear memory, but his surveillance footage revealed an anomaly that has left him terrified.
Get away. Get away. Get away from me. Help. He's also attacking me. I need help, someone. Help! Help! I'm trapped. I'm trapped. Got me out. Got me out. We are her hostage. Oh. This is my family. Don't take my family. Take me instead. Let them go.
At the start of the recording, pay close attention to the cross hanging above his bed. In a move that defies logic, the cross slowly rotates until it is completely upside down. This is a sign often cited in paranormal theory as a mocking presence. As Jorge tosses and turns, a dark, shadowy mass begins to coalesce in the corner, far denser than any natural shadow. The most heart-wrenching part of this footage is the audio. Amidst the silence, strange, disembodied whispers fill the room. Caught in the grip of a night terror, Jorge begins to plead for his life, audibly crying out, "Somebody help me, I need help," as if he is being physically overwhelmed. Jorge shared this footage with his followers, admitting that going back through the recording made him feel that something was actually there. The way the environment reacts to his distress, particularly the manipulation of the cross and the chilling vocal captures, suggests an entity that was feeding off his vulnerable state. In the field of paranormal research, this type of activity is often linked to shadow people or night hag phenomena, where an entity doesn't just haunt a space, but actively targets a person's subconscious. Theory suggests these beings act as psychic vampires, provoking extreme terror and pleas for help because they consume the raw emotional energy released during a state of sleep paralysis. Skeptics might look for strings, but the silent rotation of the cross, paired with those desperate pleas, remains baffling. Is Jorge's bedroom a site for spiritual interference, or did he invite something in that refuses to leave? I'll let you be the judge. In this next clip, we witness a chilling occurrence captured by a young man who was simply trying to enjoy a quiet night at home. While watching a scary video on his computer, he began to notice something that was far more frightening than anything on his screen. His bedroom curtains were moving entirely on their own. Jorge explains that he immediately checked for any logical explanations, but the fans in the room were turned off and there was no discernible draft. But that's not all that happened. Driven by a mix of fear and a need for answers, Jorge finally decided to look outside his window to see if a prowler was responsible for the disturbance. But what he captured on the street below was far more unsettling than a person.
So I'm just chilling in my room. The fans are on. When I was just watching this scary ass video, shadow figure just standing outside, like on the street, and just moved. I have no idea where my curtains are moving. Like, see, none of them were moving. Let's go outside. Feels like there. That's a street lamp, but what is that underneath it? Cause that wasn't there 10 minutes ago, so I have no idea right now.
In the shadows cast by a flickering street lamp, a dark, stationary figure can be seen standing perfectly still. Jorge notes that this mysterious silhouette was not there just 10 minutes prior, and it seems to watch the house with an eerie, unblinking intensity. In paranormal theory, this is often described as a watcher. These entities are frequently reported in conjunction with physical disturbances like moving objects or curtains, suggesting they are capable of manifesting enough kinetic energy to interact with the environment from a distance. Whether this was a physical intruder or something far more spectral, the stillness of that figure on the street is enough to make anyone lock their doors. So what do you think? Was Jorge being hunted by a literal shadow, or was this a series of terrifying coincidences? In this next clip, we look at a deeply unsettling series of events captured by a home security camera in the bedroom of a woman named Sam Nicolay. During the early hours of the morning, while Sam was sound asleep, her peaceful night took a dark and heavy turn that would eventually force her to question the safety of her own home. Sam describes experiencing intense, vivid nightmares that night, dreams so oppressive and realistic that she felt a physical weight pressing down on her in the room. When she finally woke up, she felt completely drained, cold, and struck by an overwhelming sense of unease. Driven by a gut feeling that she wasn't actually alone, she decided to check her surveillance footage to see if anything unusual had occurred while she was unconscious. As the footage rolls, pay close attention to the area right beside the bed. A dark, human-shaped shadow can be seen moving with chilling intent. This isn't just a faint trick of the light or a reflection from a passing car. The figure is remarkably dense, standing out clearly against the bedsheets and furniture. The atmosphere in the video feels immediately charged as the entity continues to linger, seemingly watching her while she is in her most vulnerable state. Perhaps the most compelling evidence in this case is that this manifestation was solid enough to actually trigger the camera's motion sensor. In the field of paranormal research, this suggests that the entity had gathered a significant amount of kinetic energy. Many investigators believe that these types of presences are opportunistic, likely feeding off the raw fear and emotional distress Sam was experiencing during her night terrors. On a completely different night, the same terrifying pattern repeated itself. A nightmarish dream followed by a disturbing discovery on the DVR. If you look closely at the background of this third clip, you can see the shadow manifest once more, gliding silently through the room as if it has made itself a permanent, unwanted resident. Many in the paranormal community believe these figures are shadow people. These are often described as interdimensional beings or ancient spirits that thrive in high-stress, emotional environments. They are frequently reported by people suffering from sleep paralysis, leading to the theory that they don't just watch us, they actively provoke terror to sustain their physical form. Whether this was a lingering spirit tied to the property or something more predatory that attached itself to Sam, the sight of a dark figure looming over a sleeping person is the ultimate violation of peace. Was Sam being targeted by an intelligent, malevolent presence, or was this a physical manifestation of her own deep-seated fears? I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. In the next clip, we look at a situation that's as frustrating as it is frightening. A woman recently moved into a new house, and within days, her daughter began hearing an aggressive knocking sound coming from inside the walls of her bedroom. At first, the family tried to brush it off as the usual settling of an old house, but as the activity intensified, it became clear that this was something much more deliberate. The mother asked her daughter to record the audio, and what she recorded is genuinely bone-chilling. In the video, you can see a text overlay explaining the bizarre nature of these sounds. They always happen at night. They move from the exterior walls to the ceiling and back again, and strangely, they never occur when her husband is in the room.
I said, do it again, and it does it again. Do it again. What the? Do it again. One more. Do it again and see what happens. Like, get me out of this. Do it again.
Every time she says, "Do it again," a sharp, rhythmic knocking responds from within the structure of the room. This kind of responsive activity is a classic sign of an intelligent haunting. Unlike a residual haunting, which is more like a psychic recording playing on a loop, an intelligent entity is aware of its surroundings and can interact directly with the living. In the paranormal field, this is often interpreted as a mimic or a poltergeist, attempting to establish a line of communication. By responding to her voice, the entity is demonstrating that it isn't just a random mechanical noise, it's something with a will of its own. The mother's exhaustion is evident as she pleads, "Give me a break," yet the knocking persists, louder and more frequent than before. It's a haunting reminder that once you acknowledge a presence, it often becomes more active in its attempts to be heard. What do you think? Is this a spirit trying to tell its story, or something darker, testing the boundaries of its new environment? This next one is a bizarre piece of footage recorded on a phone camera that challenges our understanding of physical boundaries. The scene was captured late on the night after Good Friday in a bedroom bathed in purple light. According to the mother who shared the clip, her daughter witnessed a massive gathering of what she described as thousands of creatures, shapeshifters, and glowing figures walking toward a massive snowbank. This bank of snow is roughly 30 feet high, with absolutely no road or passage behind it. Yet, as the figures reached the bank, they appeared to vanish into thin air. Take a look. You have to look very carefully at the movement across the white expanse of snow. Something runs across the frame so quickly that even slowing it down barely clarifies its form. Perhaps most baffling is the appearance of a car speeding out of the area, despite the snow being far too high for any vehicle to pass, and there being no road in that direction. The daughter believes she was witnessing a portal as the entities and the vehicle simply disappeared upon reaching a certain point. Among the crowd, she reported seeing giant figures, one of which reportedly looked directly into her second-story window. Other creatures appeared to be carrying what looked like newborns under their arms. Because this was recorded on a handheld phone camera rather than a fixed security system, many of the typical explanations like lens flare or infrared dust reflections don't easily apply here. The movement is erratic and seemingly independent of the camera's position. In paranormal theory, areas where multiple entities of different types are seen manifesting and disappearing are often called window areas. These are believed to be spots where the veil between dimensions is thin, allowing various beings to cross into our world momentarily before returning. So what do you think? Was this a rare glimpse into a hidden gateway, or a series of visual anomalies caught in the purple glare? I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. In the following clip you're about to watch, we see a terrifying example of a child interacting with something that an adult is completely blind to. A mother is just casually filming her little boy, Jensen, while he lines up his toy cars on the living room floor. It's a completely innocent, quiet moment, right up until a sudden noise echoes from the other side of the room. What makes this video so chilling isn't the sound itself, but Jensen's immediate, visceral reaction to it. According to his mum, he is not typically a cuddly or clingy kid, but the absolute second this happens, his survival instincts completely take over. Watch what happens when his mum starts asking him very specific questions about exactly what he is looking at.
What? It's okay. Do you see someone?
Yes.
Who do you see?
Da.
Who is it?
Daddy.
You see someone over there? What are they doing? That's what they're doing?
Yes.
Are they scary? Are they nice? Like, do you want to go play with them? They're not there no more?
Yes.
They are? What are they doing? Is there still someone over there by your toys?
Daddy.
Is it a man? Or is it a lady?
Daddy.
A lady? It's a woman? Do you know her name?
Da.
What's her name?
That's true.
Oh, she's in the kitchen now? Oh,
It's high.
she's up high?
Yes. Da. Oh. Da. Oh.
What?
This.
What is it?
Da.
You tell me, I don't see anything.
Oh. Da.
You keep pointing by your toys. Is there someone by your toys?
Oh, shit.
You keep pointing to the chair.
Oh.
Is there someone in the chair?
Yes.
Can you point to where you see someone? Where are they?
Da.
They're right there. What are they doing?
Da. I see. Da.
The chair?
This. Da.
Over by your toys?
Yes.
Well, are they gone now? Did they go bye-bye?
Da.
Right there?
Yes, I see.
They're by the chair.
Yes.
Can you wave to them if you see them?
Da. Da, got it. Mommy.
Yeah?
Da. I see.
You see them?
I see.
Is it boy or girl?
Good.
A girl?
Da. Go.
You see the girl?
Oh. Ada.
Can you ask her name?
A girl.
A girl. You see a girl? Does she make you happy or scared? Scared?
I see her dad.
Yeah, you keep pointing to the chair.
A girl.
A girl? Is she old? Like, is she maybe mommy's grandma?
Ada. I go.
A girl?
I go. I dad.
A girl sitting over there.
I go. I see that.
You see that? You see a girl?
I go see. I see that. Go see.
Oh.
See.
Did she wave to you?
Look, I see that.
Is she nice?
Let's
Oh, she is nice. Where is she?
bye.
I know you're waving to the chair, but where is she behind? Like, can you look at her? Is she there? I don't see her, do you?
Pop.
Oh. Did she leave?
No.
No, she's still there.
Let's.
Where? I put you down and you go show me where she is. Go show me. Go by her.
Ada.
Can you go give her a high five?
Nope.
Why?
High five.
You don't want to?
There is nothing more unsettling than a toddler casually describing a nightmare standing right in front of them. When she asks what the presence is doing, the terrifying face and sound he mimics to demonstrate is pure nightmare fuel. But the absolute scariest part of this footage is how he physically tracks the entity's movements in real time. He doesn't just stare at one dark corner. He points to the end of the living room, then tracks it moving into the kitchen, and finally points straight up to the ceiling. In paranormal research, an entity that defies gravity to crawl or hover on a ceiling is almost never classified as a standard human spirit. That kind of unnatural, spider-like movement is a classic hallmark of something much darker, often associated with demonic entities or crawlers. The fact that this entity is intentionally keeping itself hidden from the adults while actively showing itself to the toddler is a textbook isolation tactic. It knows the child's sensory filters are still wide open, and it is deliberately using that connection to feed off his pure, unfiltered panic. After little Jensen's terrifying encounter with whatever was crawling on the ceiling, the family understandably set up a security camera to see what was actually happening in their living room. And a few days later, the camera caught another incident. The older brother, Tucker, is just getting ready to head out with his mum, but as he's standing there, the environment is clearly highly active. Keep your focus on the little toy duck sitting completely by itself in the middle of the floor, and keep an eye out for the strange, illuminated anomalies floating through the air. Watch Tucker's body language closely too. It looks like he might actually catch a glimpse of the movement out of the corner of his eye before they walk out the door. When you combine floating orbs with actual physical object manipulation, it completely changes the conversation. Skeptics love to quickly debunk orbs as just dust particles or bugs catching the infrared light of a security camera. But in paranormal research, when an orb is captured in the exact same frame as a heavy physical interaction, like a toy being dragged across the floor, investigators classify those spheres as concentrated balls of raw spiritual energy actively trying to manifest. The creepiest part of this footage is the timeline of the movement. The entity moves the duck slightly while Tucker is standing right there, almost like it's testing the waters to see if he notices. But the absolute second the front door closes and the house is completely empty, the toy is forcefully dragged even further to the right. It proves that whatever has attached itself to this family isn't just putting on a spooky show for an audience. It is physically occupying their space, and it has absolutely no problem playing with the kids' toys the moment they leave the room. In this next clip, we look at the absolute worst case scenario for anyone who lives by themselves. The guy filming this is just returning home after stepping out for the night. As he walks up to his house, he casually glances up at his second-story window, but instead of the dark, empty room he was expecting, he sees something that stops him completely in his tracks. Someone, or something, is already inside, looking right back down at him. Keep in mind, his caption explicitly states that he lives completely alone.
No mamen. Acabo de llegar del trabajo y vean lo que estoy viendo en la ventana. No mamen.
Seeing a pale, almost translucent face staring out from a pitch-black room is pure nightmare fuel. In the paranormal community, entities that present themselves exactly like this are often referred to as watchers. Unlike poltergeists that aggressively throw things around to cause chaos and fear, watchers are incredibly still, quiet, and deeply territorial. They usually claim a specific room or floor of a house and simply observe the living. However, the fact that it is intentionally hovering right at the glass while he is standing outside shows a terrifying level of awareness. It isn't just mindlessly haunting a corner of the room, it is actively looking out the window, watching him return. It is a bold, territorial display, basically daring him to come inside, unlock his front door, and try to go to sleep. You see, just because you pay the rent doesn't mean you actually live alone. So, what do you think that is? I'll leave you to be the judge. In this next clip, we tap into one of the most primal fears you can experience. You're home completely alone, locked in your bedroom, when someone starts knocking and calling your name in your mother's exact voice. The only problem, the first time this happened, she was actually on the phone with her real mum at that exact moment, who confirms she isn't anywhere near the house. When dealing with a mimic, the golden rule is to never respond and never open the door. But watch what happens when she refuses to answer and the entity decides it's completely tired of waiting in the hallway.
Hey guys, I'm home alone and I'm getting ready for bed.
Adrena!
Mom? Are you home?
Adrena! Are you there?
Wait, I thought you weren't going to be home for another 30 minutes. What?
Adrena!
Her scream, as that door slowly swings open to reveal an empty hallway, is absolutely bone-chilling. But that final moment actually sparked a massive debate in the comments. Are mimics physically capable of opening doors on their own? In traditional paranormal lore, the answer is almost always no. Mimics are considered psychological predators. They copy the voices of your loved ones, specifically to bait you into opening the door, because they lack the kinetic energy or the spiritual permission to cross a closed boundary on their own. They rely entirely on trickery to get an invitation. So, what does it mean if the door opens by itself? From a paranormal theory standpoint, it suggests two incredibly terrifying possibilities. Either this entity has been feeding off her raw panic long enough to gather the physical power of a poltergeist, or it was never just a mimic to begin with. What do you think it was? In this next clip, a man was walking through the Valley Plaza Mall late at night, long after the stores had closed and the crowds had gone home. It should be dead silent, but as he's walking past the dark storefronts and empty massage chairs, he hears something that immediately makes his blood run cold. The distinct, echoing sound of children laughing. So, he immediately pulls out his phone to document it and manages to capture the giggling on camera. But as he's trying to figure out where the sound is coming from, he notices something moving in the shadows down the hall. Keep your eyes on the dark kiosk counter in the distance and listen closely.
On everything I love, I just heard a group of kids over here laughing. On everything, bro. I just heard a group of kids laughing. Where the hell the kids at? What the fuck? Bro, I know I'm not tripping, bro. I just heard a whole bunch of kids laughing, bro. You hear that shit? What the fuck? Bro, I'm in the mall by myself. Where the fuck is that shit coming from? I know y'all heard that shit. Bro, what the fuck? I'm about to get about this bitch. What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? Staring right at me. Right there. My heart beating fast as fuck, bro. I'm scared as fuck. There's a person right there in a red shirt right in front of me. Right there, y'all see him. There's a person right there. What the fuck going on? He just standing there. Look, he just standing there, bro. Bro. I'm out of here.
Hearing a child's laugh in an abandoned or empty space is basically the ultimate horror movie cliche, but in the paranormal community, it is actually taken very seriously. There are generally two schools of thought when it comes to phantom children. The first is that it's residual energy. Malls are places of high emotion, excitement, and energy, especially for kids. That intense joy can basically get recorded into the environment, playing back like a broken tape when the building is quiet. However, the second theory is much darker. Many investigators believe that malevolent entities will actively mimic the voices of crying or laughing children. It's a predatory tactic designed to instantly lower your guard and trigger your natural instinct to go investigate and help. When you combine that phantom laughing with a physical shadow ducking behind a counter in the distance, it looks a lot less like a residual echo and a lot more like an intelligent entity playing a very dark game of hide and seek, actively trying to bait him further into the dark mall. This next video was recorded by a father and daughter duo who were touring the historic streets of Galveston, Texas. Galveston is widely considered one of the most haunted cities in the United States, largely due to its tragic history with the Great Storm of 1900. For these two, ghost hunting is a shared passion, but they actually managed to capture their most compelling evidence without even realizing it. While they were filming the exterior of one of the city's famous Victorian-style houses, they missed the figure standing in the second-story window. It wasn't until they got home and rewatched the footage that they saw the pale shape looking back at them before it seemingly retreats into the darkness of the room.
Alright, so we took this video a while back. It's probably about 4 years ago, when I took my daughter to Galveston. We're doing those ghost tours. And later we come back and my daughter says, "Dad, look, I think I got something on one of her live photos that she did." And we've always wondered if that was something, but y'all let me know what y'all think. We think it's somebody there, like a ghost, and then it disappears. Like he's in the frame, then he disappears in the window. Now I'm gonna zoom in on it and play it. It was alive, so I have to zoom in and then do it because it's hard to see the whole video, but when we saw it there, that's what we call it. Y'all tell me what y'all think this is. So like you see there's a guy right there, like the picture of him, and then if you look, it's like he walks away, like it walks from, he's there and then he just walks away like through the thing. So y'all tell me what y'all think about that. I don't know. I know it's kind of hard to see on there, and I was trying to zoom in and zoom out and trying to get a closer look at it, but the first picture I put, it shows that it's still framing me up close, and it looks like a guy with like a hat with the white, looks like a figure in that window. It said I had to try to zoom in because it's a live video, so if you push it one way, you have to zoom on it just right so it follows it. But I don't know. What do y'all guys think? Do we get something? Do we not get something? Is it maybe something? Could it be a ghost? Could it not be a ghost? I wanted to research more on like that house because apparently there was a lot of stuff that went on in that house. If you've ever taken the tour in Galveston, one of them that goes by, we've taken a couple times just because me and my daughters, we love to go ghost hunting. But we've taken it a couple times. They showed us other pictures and stuff around there. Some other pictures other people have taken. But yeah, just let me know what y'all think. I mean, I talked to one of the tour guides that gave us the tour last time. I showed her that and she was like, yeah, I think that's something. So I don't know if she's saying that or what, but y'all tell me what y'all think.
Galveston's haunted reputation comes from a massive amount of residual energy left behind by its turbulent past. These old houses are like sponges for spiritual activity, and sightings of figures in white are incredibly common in this area. Often, these are believed to be the spirits of former residents who are still tethered to their family homes, repeating their daily routines in a loop. However, the way this figure moves is what has paranormal investigators talking. A residual haunting usually doesn't react to the living. It just plays like a movie on a loop. But this figure appears to notice the camera and immediately moves away, which suggests an intelligent entity. It knew it was being watched and chose to disappear back into the shadows of the house. What do you think that was? Was that a spirit of old Galveston watching from the shadows? Or is it just a trick of the light? I'll leave you to be the judge. In the following clip you're about to watch, we see a terrifying encounter that turns a completely mundane, everyday space into a nightmare. The guy filming is just making his way through a quiet, empty utility room. It seems like a completely normal, boring walk until the dead silence is suddenly broken by something you never want to hear when you think you're alone. And whatever makes that sound follows it up immediately with a massive, aggressive display of physical force right in front of him. Watch how fast his survival instincts kick in when he realizes what is standing in the aisle with him.
I know.
Moving a heavy, front-loading appliance door on its hinges requires a significant amount of physical strength. It's not something a draft or a slightly uneven floor is going to accomplish. But where this happens is actually the most interesting piece of the puzzle. In paranormal lore, utility rooms, basements, and laundry areas are notorious hotbeds for spiritual activity. Paranormal investigators widely believe that water is a massive conductor for spiritual energy. Entities naturally gravitate toward places with heavy plumbing, drainage, and large electrical appliances. Those elements combined create a massive, easily accessible pool of kinetic and electromagnetic energy for them to draw from in order to physically manifest. Whatever is sharing that room with him isn't just a weak, residual spirit. It has siphoned enough ambient energy from its environment to not only project its voice, but to physically interact with the real world. It wanted to stop him right in his tracks and show him exactly who was in control of that room. What do you think was sharing that room with him? I'll leave you to be the judge. In the next clip, we see exactly why exploring sealed-off, abandoned buildings at night is always a terrible idea. The guy filming is standing outside a completely deserted house, and you can immediately tell he already knows he shouldn't be there. He unlocks the door to go inside, but before he even crosses the threshold, he starts loudly praying. Whether he heard something moving around inside from the porch, or the energy of the place was just that overwhelmingly heavy, his instincts were screaming at him that the house wasn't actually empty, and he barely takes a few steps inside before he gets violent, physical confirmation. Keep your eyes locked on the dark doorway straight ahead of him.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يابا بسم الله يا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا بسم الله بسم الله بسم الله بسم الله
The sheer amount of physical force required to throw that bed to the floor like that is staggering, and you can clearly see what did it too. But the absolute scariest part of this video isn't the initial scare, it's the aftermath. When he finally gathers the courage to walk into that room to see what just threw the bed, it is completely, impossibly empty. There are no footsteps running away, no one hiding in the corner, just a wrecked room. In a lot of Middle Eastern and Islamic paranormal lore, abandoned spaces like this are heavily associated with the jinn. Unlike traditional ghosts, which are the spirits of deceased humans, jinn are considered an entirely different species of entities that live alongside us, often claiming empty, ruined houses as their own territory. When a human walks into their domain, they don't just give you a spooky, subtle haunting. They aggressively defend their ground to scare you out. Moving that fast, displaying that much physical power, and vanishing without a trace is a classic hallmark of a jinn telling you to get out of its house immediately. In this next clip, we dive into one of the most unsettling phenomena in the paranormal world. Children seeing things that adults completely miss. People don't just randomly film their family sleeping for no reason. This kind of terrifying incident had actually been happening for a while, which is exactly why the father finally decided to set up a night vision camera in their room to capture it. They are all fast asleep until the little girl suddenly wakes up in an absolute panic. Skeptics will immediately try to brush this off as just a standard childhood nightmare, but her body language completely disproves that. When a kid wakes up from a bad dream, they usually just cry and bury their face in their parents' chests for comfort because the scary thing was inside their head. But she doesn't do that. Her eyes are locked on a very specific physical spot in the room. She is actively tracking something. Watch what happens to her level of terror when her dad actually tries to walk into the dark to check it out. In the paranormal community, it is a widely accepted theory that young children possess a much broader sensory frequency than adults. Because their minds haven't been conditioned to logically filter out the impossible yet, they are highly sensitive to spiritual entities and energy shifts that we are completely blind to. The most chilling part of this footage is her reaction when her father steps toward the area she's staring at. She starts screaming purely because she doesn't want him going over there. She isn't remembering a scary dream. She is actively watching something standing in the dark, and she is genuinely terrified for her dad's safety. When a child reacts with that much intense protective panic to an empty space, you don't go investigate the dark. You just turn on every light in the house and maybe call for an exorcism. In the next clip, we are taking a look at a place that most people actively try to avoid, especially after dark, the basement of a funeral home. According to the caption, a worker was just heading down into the storage and receiving area for the bodies. This is the exact room where the recently deceased are first brought in off the street. Naturally, it's supposed to be the quietest, most completely still room in the entire building. But as he walks into the dark, the dead silence is violently interrupted. Keep your eyes on the heavy metal equipment standing right in the middle of the room.
Estamos aquí en la funeraria, otra vez, con ruidos. Entonces, pues, está solo. Ahora sí, ¿cuál pinche que se ve? Que nada. Estoy solo a la chingada. Estoy solo. A la chingada. A la chingada. A la... No mames. A la chingada.
It takes a very deliberate, aggressive amount of physical force to knock heavy funeral stands straight to the floor like that. That isn't a draft from an AC vent, and it isn't a clumsy bump. That is a targeted, violent push. When you dive into paranormal theory, funeral homes are basically considered massive spiritual transit stations. They are the ultimate liminal space between the physical world and whatever comes next. Because of that, investigators believe these buildings are constantly flooded with the confused, restless energy of spirits who might not even realize they have passed away yet. However, a sudden, violent display of kinetic energy usually points to something much heavier than just a confused ghost. Throwing heavy objects is often a sign of immense frustration from a trapped spirit. Even worse, it could be a darker, parasitic entity that actively feeds on the intense residual grief and heavy atmosphere of the morgue, lashing out at the lone worker just to prove that it is the one truly in charge of the basement. This next clip shows one of the most violent and chaotic examples of a spiritual home invasion you will ever come across. But to understand how scary this was for the poster, we need to go back a few days. The guy who lives here experienced something on a day when he was actually miles away, out performing a show. In the middle of his set, he suddenly became violently ill. He felt shaky, weak, and described it as if his energy was being completely drained right out of his body. Trusting his gut that something was horribly wrong, he pulled out his phone to check his home security cameras. What he saw unfolding in his empty kitchen is absolute nightmare fuel. The cross on his wall was turned upside down. There was a scary sound coming from his kitchen, and chairs were being thrown around. Because of this, he decided to put more cameras around his house, and one day while he was sleeping, this happened. Pay close attention to the bedroom door and keep your eyes locked on the vintage items sitting on top of his dresser. Seeing a bedroom door slowly creak open on its own is creepy enough, but the movement on that dresser takes this to a whole new level of disturbing. That doll doesn't just fall over from a vibration, it is being actively dragged back and forth, left and right, exactly like unseen hands are physically playing with it. In paranormal research, vintage dolls are notorious for acting as spiritual sponges or trigger objects. Because they are designed in the likeness of humans, dark entities often use them as vessels or focal points to manipulate physical energy. What you are seeing here is a classic psychological intimidation tactic. The entity opened the bedroom door to physically demonstrate that it has free reign of his house, and it started toying with the doll to mock a childlike innocence while he is completely unconscious and defenseless. It is a terrifying physical reminder that when you are dealing with an attachment of this level, you are never truly alone, especially when you close your eyes. When people asked why he hasn't moved out yet, he revealed that he did just move into this place, and whatever this is, didn't come with the house, it is attached to him. It followed him from his previous place. What would you do if you were in his shoes? In the next clip, we look at why pulling an all-nighter at the office can sometimes be a terrifying idea. Corporate buildings are designed for daytime hustle, but when everyone goes home, the lights dim and the space empties out, the atmosphere completely changes. The guy in this security footage is working late and decides to catch a quick nap at his desk. But it becomes very clear, very quickly, that he isn't the only one clocking in for the graveyard shift. It starts with a few classic, unsettling disruptions designed to wake him up and get his attention. But watch how aggressively the energy shifts when he finally gets up to investigate. You can literally see his panic escalate in real time. It starts with the phantom phone call, a classic terrifying poltergeist tactic. In paranormal research, entities manipulating electronics like phones or radios is often seen as an attempt to bridge the frequency gap, or simply a deliberate way to demand your undivided attention. When he picks up and hears dead air, the entity immediately pivots to physical manipulation. Moving a heavy office chair on its wheels takes effort, but aggressively throwing that black chair completely to the floor is a massive display of kinetic power. In the paranormal field, office hauntings are actually highly documented. You see workspaces are constantly filled with high stress, anxiety, and intense, heavy emotions. Many investigators believe that dense, negative energy can pool in these areas over time, creating the perfect feeding ground for poltergeists or parasitic entities. Whatever was in that room was actively feeding off his rising fear, escalating its physical attacks step by step until he finally broke. Bolting out of that office as fast as humanly possible was absolutely the only correct move. This next clip was posted by a dad who was just standing in his kitchen, completely focused on feeding his baby. His back is turned to the rest of the room, leaving him completely blind to what is slowly unfolding right behind him. He actually had no idea the full extent of what happened until he went back and pulled this security footage later. Keep your eyes on the paper towel roll sitting by the sink and watch the upper cabinets.
Ooh, fucking hell, what was that? What was that? I know. What was... That shit me up. Something was falling over. I know.
Seeing an object physically lift off the counter and levitate before dropping is one of the most undeniable displays of poltergeist activity you can capture. It didn't just tip over from a passing breeze, it was actively picked up and dropped. In paranormal research, entities that pull these kinds of stunts are usually classified as attention-seeking. But what makes this specific encounter so chilling is the intelligence behind the timing. It deliberately manipulated the paper towels to create a noise, forcing him to turn around and look. His raw, startled reaction is the exact spike in emotional energy the entity was looking for. Once it had his attention and his adrenaline was peaking, it immediately popped open the upper cabinet to establish its presence in the room. Poltergeist activity is famously drawn to households with high ambient energy, and sometimes the bustling, chaotic energy of raising a child can inadvertently act as a battery for these entities. It didn't want to hurt them. It just wanted to make it very clear that it was standing right there in the kitchen with them. In the following clip, what starts as a heartwarming family gathering takes a deeply unsettling turn. The footage centers on an elderly woman bathed in the warm glow of candles as her family sings to her. It's a standard, grainy home video, but the atmosphere subtly shifts when you look past the festivities and focus on the open doorway in the background. As the song reaches its peak, a distinct, childlike shadow darts across the room. The movement is quick but deliberate, and the shape clearly resembles a little girl. Watch closely. The grandmother appears entirely unaware of the anomaly behind her, completely absorbed in the moment. Yet, the camera captures what the human eye easily missed in the chaotic joy of the celebration. What makes this particularly chilling is the context that often accompanies such manifestations in paranormal circles. Some viewers theorize that the shadow may be deeply connected to the grandmother's past. A common narrative attached to this footage suggests that the woman may have lost a young daughter many decades ago. If that is the case, could this be the residual energy of a child returning to celebrate her mother's milestone? Or perhaps more ominously, certain folklore dictates that the sudden appearance of a long-deceased loved one acts as a harbinger, a spectral sign that they are preparing to guide the elderly family member to the other side. Is this simply a trick of the lighting, a living relative passing by unnoticed, or a fleeting glimpse of an entity from beyond the veil? I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. In this next clip, we see exactly why working in a mortuary or a funeral home requires a profound level of mental fortitude and an inherent comfort with the concept of mortality. These facilities are designed to be final way stations for the deceased, places where families gather to release their heaviest, most agonizing emotions. Because of this intense concentration of grief and transition, paranormal researchers have long considered funeral homes to be highly active epicenters for the supernatural. Usually, this activity is thought to be residual, a sort of emotional echo permanently etched into the very foundations of the building. But what happens when that energy stops being a simple echo and begins to interact with the living? Recently, a mortuary worker began documenting her shifts after noticing a disturbing pattern of inexplicable disturbances, and her footage provides a terrifying look at an escalation that defies all logical explanation. The deeply unsettling series of events begins early one morning before the facility is officially open. The worker is alone, surrounded by the sterile, quiet atmosphere of the embalming rooms, quietly prepping for the arduous tasks ahead. Having felt a heavy, oppressive presence in the building during previous night shifts, she decides to keep her camera rolling. The silence of the mortuary is profound, but it doesn't take long for that quiet to be violently broken by an auditory anomaly. Take a look. Listening closely, the vocalization carries a highly peculiar tone. It sounds like a hollow, agonizing wail that almost borders on a mocking laugh. In the context of a funeral home, one might easily write this off as a trick of the acoustics or a draft whistling through the ventilation. However, the sheer volume and human-like cadence of the sound make it incredibly difficult to debunk. But as her documentation continues over the following days, it becomes terrifyingly clear that this presence is not just a passive recording of the past. It is fully aware of her, and it is growing bolder. In a subsequent recording, the worker is no longer alone. She is joined by her son, who frequently accompanies her to assist with the heavy lifting and late-night duties. The presence of a second witness completely shifts the dynamic, grounding the experience in absolute reality. Watch their immediate reaction as the physical environment begins to manipulate itself right in front of their eyes.
Are you always alone when you're there at night? So thankfully I'm not always alone. My son also comes to help me. He has been by my side for the last few years. He's gonna be 19 soon, but he is so respectful, and he also helps on removals, and he helps me dress the loved ones. That's what we just got done with now. Tonight we had a loved one that was in really good shape, very peaceful, and it didn't take us long. And it's to the point where I don't even have to tell him what to do. He is already seasoned enough to know what we need to do. He hands me the correct tools. You know, he's a really good help. And I'm so thankful that Was that you?
No.
Was that you?
No. Look at the video, wasn't me.
What was that?
I don't know.
Well, what'd you hear?
I don't know. I don't know.
Why is that always happening?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm just thankful that he's here. So, and we're done. So.
A heavy, solid door is caught moving entirely on its own, unprompted by any visible force. Mortuary and hospital-grade doors are notoriously weighty, deliberately designed to seal off specific rooms and prevent air circulation. A simple draft, or the natural settling of an old building, simply does not possess the kinetic energy required to unlatch and move a door of that size. The genuine visceral shock on her son's face is perhaps the most compelling piece of evidence here. His fight or flight response is triggered instantly. This leap from an auditory phenomenon to a physical manipulation strongly suggests the anomaly has gathered enough energy to interact with our three-dimensional space. From this point forward, the tension within the facility compounds at a rapid pace, and the entity begins to localize its activity. While standing in the corridor, the mother and son are suddenly frozen by the sound of aggressive, inexplicable shouting originating from the facility's chapel.
Hey you guys, we haven't made a video in a little while, so I just wanted to come on and kind of refresh everybody with just a little mortician tip here. I don't know if everybody's aware. So when you bring in the clothing to the funeral home, yes, you want your loved one dressed in something either they loved, or say they were in the military and they have, you know, military getup that they want on, their favorite shirt, their favorite pants, pajamas even, just so everyone's aware. I think that this is something people don't tend to think about. But in our world, when families bring us clothing, sometimes they're not aware that in order for the clothing to really fit properly, say it's too big, too small, we have to cut the back of the clothing in order to place it on your loved one. So sometimes if families request the favorite shirt back, or, you know, their favorite set of whatever they have on, it will be cut. It's very rare, unless the clothing is perfectly fitted to that person, that the director won't have to cut it. I've worked in several funeral homes where they don't cut it, and it... Is anybody here?
No, what is here?
Who's here?
Time to go.
What?
Time to go.
We're the only ones here. I have to go look.
There's always when you video.
Okay, let's go. We're going.
The chapel is the emotional core of any funeral home, the exact room where the living confront their final goodbyes. The voices captured here are not faint whispers caught on a sensitive audio recorder. They are loud, confrontational shouts, echoing from a completely empty room. The aggression in the anomaly is so palpable that her son immediately states they need to leave, a primal instinct that the mother quickly and wisely agrees with. Fear is a natural response, and when an unseen entity begins raising its voice in an empty building, retreating is often the safest protocol. However, the most terrifying escalation occurs on an entirely separate day, proving that the entity is not a fleeting visitor, but a permanent resident. While filming in the facility, another loud, jarring noise emanates from the chapel doors. Rather than retreating this time, the mother and son decide to cautiously approach the room to investigate the source. But whatever is dwelling in that chapel seemingly senses their approach and pushes back with a massive display of power.
So we're here working. We were hearing some noises in the chapel, so we actually decided to come in the chapel and make this informative video to see if we could catch any of the noises. So I'm gonna explain what this is on today's mortuary information video. So there are times where we get loved ones who are donors. They're bone donors. They take skin, they take what they can for things that anybody may need, right? So when they come to us, we have to prepare them properly, and sometimes there are issues where there can be leakage. So in order to prevent the leakage and keep it contained, the deceased would go in one of these, which is called a unional. A unional contains all of the fluid and I thought I heard something. Contains all the fluid, and it makes sure that while your loved one is being presented in the visitation, we don't have any issues with anything, you know. Let's go see. Because now I'm in the chapel and I'm not. Oh my god.
Did the lights go
Dude,
off
the
on
lights
you?
went off right when that happened.
You wanna go?
It's always when we're recording. It never fails.
It's the camera.
Anyways.
Just as they step forward to uncover the source of the disturbance, the lights in the corridor are completely severed, plunging them into absolute darkness. This sudden blackout is deeply baffling and crosses a dangerous line. In paranormal theory, it is widely believed that spirits and entities require vast amounts of ambient energy to manifest physically or audibly. They will often drain batteries, drop the ambient temperature, or siphon power directly from a building's electrical grid. The precise timing of this blackout suggests an intelligent entity capable of manipulating the environment, either draining the power to gather strength for a larger manifestation or intentionally plunging the room into darkness to assert dominance and incite terror. It is a calculated, psychological strike against the witnesses. Even after this intense, confrontational encounter, the presence refuses to back down, continually toying with the worker and her environment. In a final piece of footage, the mortuary worker is attempting to film a standard update, speaking calmly to the camera. Yet, the entity reminds her exactly who is in control of the space. The lighting above her begins to pulse and flicker erratically. To prove there is no logical interference, she immediately pans the camera to the wall, revealing a completely empty hallway and confirming that no one is anywhere near the light switch.
Everyone, it's 11:45 p.m. and I'm here at the funeral home, and I wanted to make a video to kind of explain. A lot of people aren't aware or are confused as to why funeral directors are at the funeral home at 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. So death can occur at any time, morning, afternoon, evening, and funeral directors have to be ready to go at any time. So, you know, if a funeral director gets a call, they'll make that removal at the place of death, bring the loved one to the funeral home, and if they are going to be embalmed, that embalming is usually done at that time. So funeral directors can be at the funeral home all night. If they are getting multiple calls while they're embalming, they have to stop and go and come and finish and go and come and stop and all that stuff. So sometimes funeral directors are at the funeral home all night, and then they have to work in the office the next morning, meeting with families, taking out services. It can get really exhausting, but for me tonight, I am here, or I just got finished dressing a loved one for their services tomorrow. And I like to come in the night because there's no one here. It's peaceful, it's quiet. I can take my time and pay 100% full attention to that loved one without worrying, you know, oh, I have to go answer the phone, or I have to leave on a call. I can just actually come and take my time and concentrate. So I do like coming in the night because of that. And okay, that was weird. I don't like that. The light switch is right there. The light just flickered. And I'm gonna cut this video short because that is cue for it's my time to go.
The intelligence behind these combined occurrences is highly disturbing. We are looking at a clear, methodical escalation. What began as a distant, mournful cry evolved into the physical manipulation of heavy doors, aggressive vocalizations, and the deliberate, targeted manipulation of the building's electrical system. The facility appears to be hosting something that absolutely demands to be acknowledged. Is this simply the collected, heavy energy of 1,000 grieving families manifesting physically in the architecture, or has a specific, highly intelligent entity refused to cross over, trapping itself forever between the chapel and the embalming room? I'll leave you to be the judge. In this next clip, a worker at what appears to be a large cemetery or mortuary complex captures a series of events that suggest he is far from alone during his night shift. According to the man recording, he began documenting the area after noticing small objects being toyed with by an unseen force. Though he speaks in Spanish, the terror in his voice is universal as he repeatedly asks, "Who is there?" The footage begins with a focus on a simple water bottle resting on a flat stone ledge. Take a look.
¿Vieron la botella? ¿Vieron la botella? ¿La vieron? Si estás aquí, manifiéstate. Hola. Mira, se cayó. Al mismo tiempo, amigos, al mismo tiempo, mira alguien ahí al fondo. Buenas noches. ¡Ay, Dios! No. ¿Qué es eso? ¿Hola? Ay. ¿Quién eres? Ven. ¿Hay alguien aquí? ¿Hay alguien aquí? ¿Hola?
The initial movement of the water bottle is unsettling. It doesn't slide as if pushed by a localized draft, but rather shifts with a deliberate jerky motion that suggests a physical grip. As the worker ventures deeper into the narrow corridors between the tombs, the activity becomes more aggressive. A large plastic container is caught on camera falling and tumbling across his path, appearing as though it were violently thrown from the dark recesses of the complex. The anomaly only deepens when the camera pans toward the back of the graveyard, briefly catching a glimpse of a pale, stationary figure standing over a grave in the distance. The most baffling part of this encounter, however, involves the religious iconography present at the site. Among the various items being manipulated, the large cross mounted atop one of the tombs appears to shift and tilt on its own. In paranormal research, the physical movement of heavy, fixed objects, especially those of a religious nature, is often categorized as high-energy poltergeist activity. It suggests an entity capable of significant kinetic output, or perhaps a residual energy that has become strong enough to influence the physical world. If you were alone in a graveyard and witnessed a cross-shifting of its own accord, would you stay to see what manifested next, or would you find a new line of work? In the following clip, we encounter a scenario that goes far beyond a typical residual haunting. When investigators assess a location, they don't just look for movement or sound. They pay very close attention to environmental and sensory changes. One of the most severe red flags you can experience in your home is olfactory, specifically the sudden, unexplained smell of sulfur or rotten eggs. In the paranormal world, that nasty smell usually isn't just bad plumbing. A lot of people believe it's the physical sign of something really dark and heavy entering our reality. When an entity like that steps into a room, it completely shifts the energy. Keep that in mind and keep your eyes glued to the wall right behind the couch.
Oh, what the fuck? What the fuck is that? Dude. Baby, what took you so long to answer? Dude, the house smells like literally like rotten egg. Like, it literally smells like you forgot to take the trash out or something. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on, but this shit, like, I'm literally feel like I'm about to puke. I was just taking a nap and the house smells disgusting. Yeah, I'll open the door. I don't know if that's gonna do much though. The door's open. I don't know. I need a fan or something. You need to get home and like air, like do something in here. Did you take the trash out? What the fuck, baby? The lights are fucking flickering now, dude. Baby, stop! What the fuck? Baby!
When an unseen force interacts with the physical world, the choice of what it manipulates tells you everything you need to know about its intentions. Knocking a cup off a table is a simple cry for attention, but deliberately targeting a symbol of faith and physically inverting it is a highly calculated act of mockery. Pulling off a manipulation like that requires a massive draw of raw energy, which perfectly explains the sudden electrical interference and flickering lights right before it happens. It serves a very specific, deeply sinister purpose. The entity isn't just trying to scare the occupants, it is launching a psychological attack designed to strip away their sense of spiritual protection and claim absolute dominance over the space. When things start smelling like decay and the symbols on your wall turn upside down, you aren't dealing with a restless ghost passing through. You are dealing with something deeply malevolent that is actively making itself at home. In the next clip, we see a perfectly normal family moment take a very strange turn. A mother and father are sitting on the floor, playing with their baby boy. The baby is laughing, and everything seems completely fine, but right in the middle of a giggle, he abruptly stops. The parents were actually so confused by his sudden change in behavior that they posted the video asking a genuine question. Did my son see a ghost or have a seizure? This naturally sparked a huge debate in the comments. While some people suggested it looked like a brief absent seizure, others pointed out an environmental anomaly. As you watch, pay very close attention to the lighting in the room right before the baby's demeanor shifts.
It's so cute.
While a medical explanation is always the most logical place to start, a lot of viewers argued against it based on the visual evidence. First, the physical reaction doesn't entirely fit. Even while his face is frozen, his arms are still subtly moving, and the freeze lasts for just a fraction of a second before he snaps right back to normal. As several people pointed out, absent seizures don't typically resolve that instantaneously, but the detail that really makes people lean toward a paranormal explanation is the lighting. Just as one viewer noticed, right before the baby locks his eyes on the empty space, the brightness of the camera feed inexplicably surges. A medical episode happening inside a child's brain does not cause the external lighting in a room to fluctuate. That kind of sudden light anomaly is often associated with energy shifting in a room. The parents don't know what happened to their boy, but what do you think? This next clip was filmed in an empty grocery store. You see, there is a very specific, deeply unsettling feeling that comes with working the graveyard shift in a massive empty building. Grocery stores are designed to be packed with people, light, and noise. So when you strip all of that away at 3 a.m., it turns into a maze of dead quiet aisles and harsh fluorescent lights. It becomes the perfect, isolated playground for something that doesn't belong. For a while, the overnight stalker who filmed this had been feeling like he wasn't actually alone in the store. He kept catching quick glimpses of a figure in a white shirt slipping around corners or ducking behind shelves just out of his direct line of sight. It's easy to try and brush that off as simple sleep deprivation, but when he walked out of the back room on this particular night, the entity decided to stop hiding in the periphery and make a very physical, undeniable introduction.
Alright, at work, alone, middle of the night. Look at that one sign. Swinging. What is up with that? Nothing else is moving. The one sign right there. What's up with that?
Skeptics will immediately try to blame the HVAC system kicking on or a draft from a loading dock door. But basic physics completely ruins that argument. If that was air current, the other identical signs would at least be swaying too, but they are not. They're dead still. That isolated, aggressive movement is completely unnatural, and the fact that the sign is hanging way too high up for a living person to physically reach just adds to the nightmare. That isn't a draft. That is the exact same figure in the white shirt he's been seeing for weeks, finally stepping out into the open and showing him how much physical power it actually has. What would you do if that were you? In this next clip, we are dealing with a situation that feels straight out of a horror movie. We've all heard stories about a random electronic toy going off in the middle of the night, usually just because of a dying battery or a weird glitch. But what this creator captured going on in her bedroom completely defies logic. For a while, she kept waking up to the sound of a very specific melody coming from her bedside lamp. But the terrifying part is how the lamp behaves. It doesn't just play randomly, it waits until she is fully asleep, and the exact second she physically gets up or moves around to check on it, the music dead stops. That kind of reaction isn't a mechanical error, that shows awareness. It knows when she's awake and asleep. If you listen closely, the song playing is Auld Lang Syne, the classic tune everyone sings at midnight on New Year's Eve. Hearing that tinny, cheerful melody echoing in a pitch-black bedroom while you're trying to sleep is unsettling enough on its own. Naturally, the comment section was flooded with people trying to rationalize it, mostly claiming it's just the sound of a musical microchip dying on a low battery. But here is the massive problem with that theory. The creator explicitly confirmed that the lamp is completely unplugged from the wall, and it doesn't even take batteries. There is literally zero physical power source connected to this object. If a device has absolutely no electricity running to it, it cannot produce sound. Unless, of course, something unseen in that room is providing its own energy to make it play. So, what do you think? I'll leave you to be the judge. In this next clip, what should have been an exciting fresh start in a new house immediately turns into a nightmare. He has just moved in and is completely alone in the house. He's standing in a dark hallway when the lights start to glitch out and the sliding door at the very end of the hall begins to move.
I was moving into my new house. I was alone, and this happened. Good luck to me.
Notice the specific way that door closes. It isn't a smooth, continuous glide caused by a slanted floor or a heavy draft. It has a distinct start and stop motion, exactly like a physical hand is gripping the edge and carefully pulling it shut. He bravely walks down the hall, slides the door open, and finds absolutely nothing inside. It's definitely not the kind of welcoming committee you want to deal with on your first day in a new house. You might try to rationalize that first event and just go to work, hoping it was a weird, isolated fluke. But the second half of the video destroys any chance of a logical explanation. He comes home from his shift to find that exact same bedroom door actively opening and closing on its own. He works up the courage again to push through it and see what is waiting for him inside.
I came home from work. Something seemed strange. My lights were on, and something weird happened. WTF is that thing? Somebody get me out of here.
The door moving is creepy enough, but finding that vintage clown doll sitting dead center on his bed takes it to a completely different level of terrifying. Remember, he lives completely alone and absolutely did not put that doll there. In paranormal research, objects like old dolls are often viewed as trigger objects, items that can hold significant residual energy or even act as an anchor for an entity. Physically transporting an object like that and placing it directly on where he sleeps while he was out of the house is a massive escalation. It's a very clear, very sinister message from whatever is sharing that house with him. I was in your room and I am waiting for you. In this next clip, we see why setting up a security camera in your bedroom can sometimes give you a lot more than you bargained for. The person who filmed this was very clear in their caption. They made absolutely sure that the closet door with the mirror on it was securely shut and latched. Watch what happens to it. A latch door doesn't just pop open on its own because of a breeze or the house settling. It takes physical force to undo a latch and pull it open. But as creepy as that is, it's really just the warm-up. That same night, while the creator was actually in the room, fast asleep in bed out of the camera's view, their phone got a motion alert from the camera, and when they checked the footage the next day, they saw this. In the video, you can clearly see a distinct dark shadow moving across the wall and the door. The creator confirmed there was absolutely nothing moving inside or outside the house that could have cast a shadow like that. But the detail that really freaked them out is where the shadow ends up. Toward the end of the clip, the dark shape stops and just hovers right at the foot of the bed, lingering exactly where they were sleeping. It's one thing for an entity to mess with your closet doors while you're out of the room, but standing over you in the dark while you are completely vulnerable and asleep, that is a massive invasion of privacy and honestly, a great reason to pack your bags. What would you do if you experienced something like this? This next clip presents a very unsettling dynamic. When we see grainy baby monitor footage recorded at 3 a.m., we naturally brace ourselves for something terrifying. But what happens when the entity lurking in your child's nursery isn't there to scare them, but to protect them? The footage shows a baby awake and playing in his crib in the middle of the night. As he rocks backward, getting dangerously close to smacking the back of his head against the wooden rails, an unseen force intervenes. If you watch the baby's momentum, the physics simply don't make sense for a self-correction. As the mother pointed out in its post, he is a 23-pound toddler. A baby of that size and motor development cannot abruptly halt a backward fall and smoothly glide forward using just one hand. That movement was a clear, controlled, and gentle tug from an external source, pulling him safely away from the edge. What makes this even more fascinating and eerie is the established pattern. According to the family, this isn't an isolated incident. They regularly capture this kind of activity around the exact same time at night, and the presence behaves in a distinctly maternal way. It doesn't just catch him when he falls. It has also been documented carefully adjusting his blanket to keep him warm while he sleeps. In paranormal theory, this is often categorized as a guardian spirit, or perhaps a lingering familial energy. And while it is certainly comforting to know that the ghost in your house wants to keep your baby safe, it is still an incredibly tough reality to accept that an invisible entity is taking the night shift in your nursery. This video you're about to watch comes from the home surveillance footage of a co-worker's house. According to the person who shared this, the homeowner has been dealing with a heavy, oppressive presence in this specific area of their house, claiming that they repeatedly see this exact same shadowy figure lurking around late at night. Finally, their security camera triggered and captured what they've been dreading. In paranormal analysis, whenever a hazy, indistinct shape drifts across the screen like that, skeptics immediately jump to a few standard conclusions. They'll argue it's just an out-of-focus bug walking across the camera lens, or perhaps the headlights of a passing car refracting through the glass. But we can definitively rule the car lights out. The co-worker who lives in the house confirmed that at the exact moment this anomaly was recorded, there were absolutely no cars driving by outside and no external lights shining onto the property. If there is no external light source, there can be no reflection, which means this shadow light anomaly wasn't caused by the environment. It was an intelligence generating its own luminous energy to manifest in our reality. What the camera caught wasn't a trick of lighting or a wandering insect. It was the physical visual discharge of the exact recurring entity the homeowner knows is waiting for them in the dark. What do you think about this? This next clip shows an anomaly that has baffled a homeowner for the last 4 years. One night, a strange, erratic light source triggered her camera's motion sensors, so she uploaded the video and it sparked a massive debate. The movement is so distinctly autonomous and fluttery that the creator's friend and dozens of people in the comments are entirely convinced the camera captured a fairy. Naturally, skeptics were quick to jump in with two main scientific explanations. Either it's simply a trick of the light reflecting off the kitchen counter, or it's the camera's infrared lights refracting off a tiny spider web hanging just in front of the lens. Keep those theories in mind as you watch the footage. If you watch the trajectory closely, both of those logical explanations completely fall apart. First, if this were merely a reflection, like a passing car's headlights sliding across the kitchen counter, the light would physically bend, distort, or break the moment it crossed the edge of the countertop. But it doesn't. The light maintains its shape and trajectory perfectly. It doesn't bend with the counter because it isn't on the counter. It is a free-floating, three-dimensional energy source moving through the air directly in front of it. The spiderweb theory is much more plausible. In fact, it's exactly what the homeowner thought when her Ring notifications first started going off like crazy. To solve the problem, she physically went out into the room and scrubbed that entire corner, checking for and clearing out any spider webs within a 5-foot radius. But here is the detail that turns this from a mild curiosity into a terrifying encounter. The footage we just watched was recorded after she cleaned the area. Whatever this anomaly was, it wasn't a web and it wasn't leaving. The persistent, unexplained presence of this energy finally pushed the homeowner to her breaking point. She was so spooked that she grabbed her dog at 3 a.m., abandoned the house, and drove 40 minutes to sleep on her parents' couch. When she finally returned the next day, the anomaly was completely gone and she never saw it again. What do you think that was? I'll let you be the judge. This next clip takes us into an environment universally recognized as a massive focal point for the unexplained, a cemetery. In paranormal research, graveyards are considered active batteries of residual energy that hold a dense concentration of spiritual activity simply due to the emotional weight and history attached to the ground. The footage comes from a creator who makes a regular habit of live streaming his late-night graveyard visits. As he stands in the dark, his face covered by a black balaclava while he interacts with his chat, pay close attention to the background just over his right shoulder.
Graben. Pinche velador está loco. Ese Hidalgo. Dylan Adrián, ese Hidalgo, no.
Right in the middle of his broadcast, the distinct silhouette of what appears to be a full-bodied figure casually walks through the shadows directly behind the tombstones. When someone repeatedly uses a final resting place for entertainment, they inevitably run the risk of disturbing whatever is anchored there. Spirits, much like the living, can eventually reach a breaking point when their peace is constantly interrupted. This manifestation doesn't feel like a random, wandering soul just caught on camera by accident. Given how often he streams there, it feels much more like a subtle, calculated warning. It's a quiet, but deeply unsettling way for the residents of that graveyard to let him know that they are watching, they just want to rest, and they have finally had enough of his cameras. If an entity is willing to step out of the shadows and walk directly behind you while you're live streaming, it might be time to find a new location to film. In this next clip, we explore a concept that's so scary, it sounds straight out of a nightmare. What if you aren't just living with a spirit, but living inside a monster house that is actively hunting you? You see, for weeks, the guy in this video had been dealing with deeply unsettling auditory phenomena, most notably hearing distinct, disembodied laughter in his house when he knew for a fact he was completely home alone. But tonight, the entity decided to stop laughing from the shadows and start physically interacting with the environment. He hears the heavy, rhythmic thud of his kitchen cabinets opening and slamming shut on their own. So, armed with his camera, he goes in to investigate. But what makes this footage so sinister is the undeniable intelligence behind the activity. The entity plays a predatory game of cat and mouse. The moment he steps into the kitchen, the noise dead stops. But the second he turns his camera away, it immediately starts again. Watch what happens when the entity finally decides to drop the act and show itself.
Something opens my cabinet and laughs.
No one's in my cupboard that I'm aware of. Oh my god. Fuck that. I swear one of these cupboards just went. It wasn't the same noise. It usually happens, but one of these. Maybe that. No, that won't go because it's got stuff in front of it. This is bullshit. I swear to God that cupboard is moving. Oh my god. Oh shit. Right, that's it. I'm going. Oh my god.
The sheer, unfiltered panic in his voice as he yells is the sound of a man realizing he is no longer at the top of the food chain in his own home. But the most chilling detail happens just as he turns to flee. The cabinet doesn't just slam shut, it violently swings completely wide open. In paranormal psychology, an entity that plays red light, green light with a victim isn't just haunting a space, it's actively trying to break the occupant down psychologically to establish dominance. When that cabinet swings wide open, right as he turns his back to run, it is the entity claiming its territory. This leaves us with one final, scary question. If your own home suddenly turned into a hunting ground and things around the house start playing games with you, what would you do? This next clip was posted by a mum who's convinced that her toddler has just seen a ghost. It is a long-standing theory in the paranormal community that young children possess a heightened awareness, allowing them to see things that adults simply brush past. What starts as a normal, happy moment between a mother and her toddler hanging out on the bed quickly shifts when the child's attention is completely derailed by something invisible in the room. The mother noted in her caption that while her daughter didn't cry before or after the specific footage, and that there have been other times in this house where she was absolutely petrified by whatever she was staring at. Watch her expression change and listen to what she points at.
Nipple. Why are you scared? Oh. What's wrong?
Don't Dada.
Where's Dada? Oh.
Okay, oh, what are those? Huh? Others.
I don't know. What is it?
What is it?
There's nothing out there.
No, we are there.
What?
No, we are there.
Where?
We are there. Don't know it goes.
A ghost? Did you say it's a ghost?
No, it goes.
Where's a ghost?
No, it goes.
Oh.
It's definitely chilling to watch a child go from laughing to being completely hyperfixated on an empty space. But the most striking part is her vocabulary. She explicitly points into the void and identifies the presence as a ghost. Toddlers don't really have the psychological capacity to fake a complex visual tracking response just for fun. She is actively watching something move across the room. The mum handles it like most parents probably would, assuming it's just her child's active imagination. But from an investigator's perspective, verbally acknowledging and inviting an unverified entity closer is always a risky move, even as a joke. It gives whatever is standing in that room validation. It leaves you wondering, when a child points to an empty corner and tells you someone is there, at what point do you stop laughing and start believing them? This next clip perfectly captures the terrifying progression of a physical haunting. When an entity first starts interacting with our world, it often tests the waters with smaller, easily dismissed movements before escalating to heavier objects. In the first half of the video, we are looking at a seemingly normal bedroom setup. Keep your eyes on the bag resting quietly on top of the bed.
Picture lang. Makita tayo.
There is no visible string, no sudden tilt of the mattress, and no logical reason for a stationary bag to suddenly drag itself over the edge. The movement is a clear, downward pull, but whatever is in this house wasn't satisfied with just knocking luggage onto the floor. In the second part of the footage, the kinetic energy shifts, focusing on a seating arrangement. Watch closely because the extreme specificity of what happens next is what makes it so unnerving.
Tingnan nyo guys ha. Nandiyan na siya. Nandiyan na. Nandiyan na siya. Nandiyan na. Nandiyan na. Gumalaw yung bangko.
Notice how the surrounding environment remains completely undisturbed. The table doesn't bump. The stool right next to it doesn't wobble, and there is no shifting of the floor. Just a single chair being smoothly and deliberately dragged backward by an unseen hand. When paranormal activity is this targeted, it completely rules out environmental factors like heavy vibrations, earthquakes, or drafts. It proves that the entity has enough focus and density to grip a single, specific piece of furniture and move it with purpose. It isn't just lashing out blindly, it knows exactly what it wants to move, and it wants to make sure the homeowner is watching when it happens. This next footage gives us a rare, real-time look at an investigator actively negotiating with a poltergeist, and it perfectly illustrates how unpredictable and intelligent these entities can be. The video starts right after a violent physical disturbance. That heavy metal stand with the draping beads on the middle shelf had just swung forward on its own, violently striking the glass door of the display cabinet. The investigator immediately opens the right side door, hits record, and begins a direct communication session, challenging whatever is in the room to do it again. At first, the response is weak. We just see a slight, subtle jingling of the draped beads. It's the exact kind of movement a skeptic would immediately debunk as a heavy footstep, or the investigator subtly bumping the wooden cabinet. But the investigator knows this, so he doesn't back down. He verbally pushes the entity, asking it to actually swing the object like it did before. What the entity does in response leaves him completely unnerved and physically lightheaded.
Poltergeist. So I'm sitting here gaming, and that object up there swung and literally smacked the glass really hard. Damn reflection, but look, still moving. Let's get you before it stops. Look, still moving. Oh no, it moved. Look, it was sitting there, as you can see from the dust. Oh, so it moved. Alright. Can you make it swing again? Damn, I really need to wipe off in there. Look at all that shit. Can you make it swing again? Try to open that more. Hello? Can you make it move again? Oh, look. It made them all move now. Nice. Can you make it swing like you did before when it hit the glass? It's going out of focus. Alright, now I said swing it, not move it. Jeez Louise. Jeez Louise. And I opened that thing, so probably let the damn thing out. Yo, this thing keeps moving. I'm like nervous and shaking, and I'm lightheaded a little bit. Keeps going out of focus. Surprised them things ain't shaking more, how much it moved. I'm so nervous, man. So lightheaded. I don't regret this, but can you make it move again? Can you make it move again? So lightheaded. Can you slide it the other way? Keeps going out of focus. Yo! Was that a nickel, a dime, a penny? Look, there's my change. That thing went flying. How did it not hit the glass? See, that is some glitch in the Matrix shit. Yo, I gotta rewatch that, cause how to get past that glass and fly behind this stuff. What is that? That's definitely not what flew out. I don't even know where.
In the following footage, a Reddit user known as Melodic District 264 captures a series of events in what appears to be a service corridor or a storage section of an apartment complex. According to the uploader, he only began recording after hearing a distinct, violent sound while his back was turned. The sound of a heavy, yellow cable being smacked against the wall by an unseen force. He decided to investigate the source of the noise, venturing into the hallway with his phone camera ready. What he captures is a manifestation of movement that is difficult to explain through natural drafts or structural settling. Take a look.
Nigga, something just smacked the fuck. Yo, nigga, what I say, nigga? I mean, I ain't that scared, but no mamas.
The footage shows a yellow cable suddenly tensioned and whipped against the wall with enough force to create an audible crack. In an area like this, one might look for a logical explanation, such as a localized gust of wind, but the way the cable is pulled back before the snap suggests a deliberate physical grip. Furthermore, as the camera pans toward the shadows at the end of the corridor, the atmosphere feels heavy, as if the camera is capturing a residual energy left behind in the bowels of the building. The uploader was so disturbed by the physical nature of this manifestation that he shared the footage seeking an explanation for the escalating activity. While skeptics might suggest a hidden line or a snag in the building's infrastructure, the speed and isolation of the movement remain baffling. Is it possible that the utility areas of buildings, often neglected and empty, can play host to this kind of unsettling activity? I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. In December of 2025, Daisy Summer shared a series of distress calls from her home. According to Daisy, the atmosphere in her house had shifted significantly, characterized by peculiar sounds echoing through the halls during the late night hours. The following footage captures her attempt to document the anomaly after a particularly unsettling encounter while she was getting ready for work. Her distress is palpable as she recounts seeing something in her bathroom that defied logic. Keep your eyes on the shadow extending from behind the bathroom door.
Holy shit, I was just getting ready for work and I freaking saw something in my bathroom that scared the freaking shit out of me. I don't know what it was, but it looked like a ghost. Like literally, I think I just saw a ghost. I want to get out of here. I want to get out of my house. I'm so scared. It was like right there where those shadows are. Those are shadows from the towel right there. But there was like a shadow right there where those other shadows are. And it looked like a person. It looked like a ghost. Like right there. Oh shit. Holy fuck! Ah!
You can see a dark, elongated mass is visible near the floor, seemingly separate from the natural shadows cast by the surrounding furniture. While some viewers initially suggested it was merely a trick of the light, the escalation occurs toward the very end of the clip. Just as she pans away, a dark protrusion, resembling a head or a limb, briefly extends from behind the doorframe into the hallway before she bolts in terror. The movement is fluid and lacks the jagged quality of a digital artifact or a camera glitch. In the realm of paranormal research, this behavior is often associated with shadow people, entities that are frequently reported as peeking from corners or lurking in the periphery of vision. Many researchers believe these manifestations are not just residual hauntings, but sentient entities that feed off of high-frequency human emotions, specifically fear and anxiety. By peeking out and then retreating, the entity may be deliberately testing Daisy gauging her reaction to maximize the emotional output it can draw from her. Some viewers in the comments suggested that Daisy's sheer terror might actually be strengthening the entity's presence. One user suggested that instead of fleeing, she should have met the anomaly with anger or annoyance, theorizing that by removing the food source of fear, the entity would lose its ability to manifest physically. What do you think? Was this a temporary overlap of dimensions, or a predatory entity thriving on the atmosphere of a frightened household? This next clip explores the thin line between grief and the supernatural, where a house once filled with life suddenly feels hollow. In late 2024, Tonya Richardson began documenting what she believes is the residual energy of her beloved Maltese, Frenchie, who had passed away 5 months prior. Tonya explains that Frenchie had a very specific habit. She loved to burrow under the blankets and playfully chase Tonya's feet. What began as a memory soon manifested as a physical occurrence that Tonya captures in real time. The setting is her quiet bedroom, where the blankets begin to shift in a manner that is uncannily familiar. Take a look.
Y'all see that? My feet are literally right here. My blanket will just randomly move like that. That is so weird. Stop! Y'all, my hair standing on my arms, because that's creepy. It does this about the same time every morning. So I'm not sure what it is trying to tell me something, but it's creepy.
The movement captured is both fluid and localized. You can see the duvet bunching and sliding as if a small weight is pressing against it from underneath. While a draft or a mechanical fan might cause a light ripple, this particular motion has a distinct hopping quality. The blanket doesn't just flutter, it appears to be nudged by a deliberate physical force. It's an unsettling sight, yet Tonya speaks to the empty space with a sense of comfort, convinced that Frenchie has returned to her favorite spot. However, as the days passed, the activity didn't just remain a comfort, it became more frequent and intense. Skeptics often point to simple explanations like hidden pets or household fans, but Tonya was determined to rule out any logical interference. To provide context for the escalation, she decided to pull back the veil and show exactly what or what isn't behind the movement.
My baby come to see me again. Frenchie, what you doing? What you doing? Are you gonna play tonight? Are you gonna play? There you are. Hello. Hello. What you doing? What you doing, baby? You trying to find the right spot? Just not finding the right spot, huh? nothing under the bed. Look, nothing under the sheets. Nothing there. Nothing there.
The most baffling part of this footage occurs when Tonya lifts the heavy comforter. As she clears the area, the movement stops instantly, and the space beneath the sheets is completely empty. She even goes as far as to show the area under the bed, proving there are no other pets or hidden devices that could be tethered to the fabric. The ghostly weight seems to vanish the moment it's observed directly, a pattern often noted in poltergeist-style manifestations, where an entity reacts to direct human focus. In the paranormal community, some believe these fur baby hauntings are beautiful signs of a bond that transcends death. Others, however, take a more cautious approach. There is a theory that certain opportunistic entities can mimic the behaviors of a lost loved one or pet to gain trust and lower a person's spiritual guard. By imitating the kangaroo jumping style Frenchie was known for, an anomaly could potentially root itself in the home by feeding off the residents' grief and longing. Whether this is a heartwarming visit from a loyal companion or a more deceptive manifestation remains a topic of heavy debate among viewers. Some find the footage profoundly moving, while others feel an instinctual dread at the sight of the empty sheets shifting on their own. I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. This next clip highlights just how quickly a familiar space can turn hostile. In January of 2026, Perry and her roommate were at home alone when they were startled by a series of inexplicable sounds. The atmosphere within the apartment shifted from relaxed to high alert in a matter of seconds, as the duo began to suspect they weren't as alone as they thought. The footage captures their immediate reaction, and the sheer urgency in their body language is undeniable. Take a look.
I'm recording. Wait. Do you hear that? Can you check the security footage? Oh, what is it?
The panic is palpable as they move through the apartment, whispering and checking corners. Rather than risk exiting through the front door, where the sounds seemed to originate, the two roommates were so convinced of an intruder that they opted to flee through a window instead. However, the mystery only deepened when they later reviewed their security footage. A motion-sensing camera pointed at the kitchen began to track an invisible presence. The software identifies a person in the empty space just above a robot vacuum cleaner, tracking the anomaly as it moves across the floor, yet nothing is visible to the human eye. The escalation continued throughout the night, with the roommates capturing further evidence that suggests something far more complex than a simple intruder. In this follow-up, the camera captures the heavy front door mysteriously unlatching and swinging open of its own accord. There is no visible hand on the handle, and the roommates are nowhere near the entrance. In the paranormal world, this kind of activity is often categorized as a skinwalker manifestation or a highly active poltergeist, particularly when senses are triggered by empty space. Some viewers pointed out that the way the sensor tracked the movement above the vacuum suggests an entity with a distinct height and mass, even if it remains shrouded from the light spectrum. While skeptics might suggest a draft or a mechanical failure in the door latch, the combination of the roommate's genuine fear and the camera's technical detection of a person makes this case particularly baffling. Could there be something dwelling within the walls of the apartment, or perhaps a transient entity that followed one of them home? If your security system alerted you to a person in an empty room, would you stay to see if it manifested, or would you be the first one out the window? This next clip takes us inside a veterinary hospital, a place often charged with high stakes and deep emotional transitions. In late 2025, a veterinary professional named Renee shared footage that has left many in the medical community questioning what happens in these clinics after hours. Renee explains that while staying late to care for a sick colleague's pet and a puppy battling parvovirus, she and her co-worker, Tessia, were interrupted by a sound that simply didn't belong. The atmosphere in the treatment room becomes tense as a phantom vocalization echoes through the sterile environment. Take a look.
That's weird. Where is that coming from? It don't sound like it's coming from. Okay, so you still want to do banana bags, 15 mils an hour, head of starch, 4 mils an hour. It's coming from over this way. Alright. Medication, metronidazole, 15 mils BID, IV. Wait, is it Scarlet? Wait. I clamped it off before getting meds. Is somebody dropping it off up there? That's coming from up there. They may have done that when they switched the bag. Is it the new bag free? No. Alright, who's not gonna help me? It's in the lobby. It's coming from the lobby. No, it's not. Where is that? It's not in here. What is that? What, phantom dolls? That's fucking weird. Is it Charles? You heard that, right? We all heard that. I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything. What did you hear? A dog keeps yapping. Is it Dakota? No. Look at coming from over here. Why don't you look in the front porch and make sure they didn't dump one or throw one in the pen outside or something? I didn't hear anything. You're not hearing that. Maria has heard it. I didn't hear it. No. You heard it, right? I heard it. I didn't hear it. It sounds like it's coming from this side. You can't hear the iPod though, right? No. Look at that fence out there. It makes you somebody throw one in the fence. I heard nothing. I was like, what are y'all talking about? Yeah, that's a brand new bag. That's fucking bizarre. Yeah. That's I haven't heard it. I still haven't heard it. All three of us heard it. And it was coming from that. It sounded like it was in that room or something. Like it sounded like it was like right playing the board. We're gonna play that back. I didn't even hear anything. Can you play it like specifically in those rooms or anything?
As you can hear, a distinct, mournful canine cry fills the room. Renee notes that there were only 4 animals present at the time: a cat, an elderly Great Dane, the sick puppy, and an old healer. None of them were vocalizing, yet the sound is clear and persistent. In paranormal research, hospitals and clinics are often cited as hotspots for residual energy, places where intense life and death moments leave a permanent echo. Some believe this could be the spirit of a recently euthanized pet, perhaps still seeking comfort in a familiar setting. However, the activity at this hospital isn't limited to just sound. Renee later shared surveillance footage from the kennel area that suggests a much more physical presence. In this chilling follow-up, watch the latch of one of the cages closely. Without any visible interference, the metal lever is seen rising on its own. When the door doesn't swing open immediately, it appears to be pulled outward by an unseen force, allowing the animal inside to potentially wander out. There are no shadows, no reflections of people in the room, and no mechanical failures that would explain a multi-step process like unlatching and then pulling a door. This level of physical manipulation often points to an intelligent haunting, an entity capable of interacting with its environment to achieve a specific goal. While skeptics might suggest a loose latch or a vibration from the building, the deliberate nature of the opening is hard to dismiss. Is it possible that the bond between humans and animals is so strong that even in death, these patients stay behind to navigate the only place that tried to save them? I'll let you come up with your own conclusions. If you were working a night shift and heard a phantom cry from an empty kennel, would you shrug it off as a residual echo, or would you start looking for a new clinic?